Across the United States, crime scenes have uncovered discoveries so shocking they've left even seasoned investigators stunned. These aren't just stories of crime, they are moments that have changed lives, shaken communities, and rewritten the rules of investigation. Imagine a hidden barrel in a quiet suburban basement, a body inside telling a tale of betrayal and murder. Picture investigators stumbling upon burial sites so well hidden they almost remain secrets forever. Or think about a simple cardboard box by the roadside, carrying a mystery that would haunt a city for decades. In today's documentary, we're delving into 8 of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in true crime history. Each story is more than a case file, it's a glimpse into the darkest corners of humanity and the resilience of those seeking justice. These are tales of buried secrets, miraculous escapes, and crimes so shocking they continue to defy explanation. Prepare to journey through the unexpected twists and unimaginable truths that have left investigators and the public alike searching for answers. Our first case takes us to a quiet neighborhood in Nevada in 1983, where a routine renovation project turned into a horrifying discovery. A metal barrel, rusted and forgotten in the basement of a seemingly ordinary home, held a gruesome secret. Inside was the body of a man who had been missing for over a decade. This was no ordinary missing persons case, it was a chilling glimpse into a meticulously planned crime. The victim was later identified as Paul McGuire, a local businessman who had vanished without a trace in 1973. Paul was well known in the community, a family man with no known enemies. When he disappeared, his family and friends were left with unanswered questions and no leads. The discovery of his body years later shocked not only his loved ones but also the entire neighborhood. The investigation revealed that Paul's body had been sealed in the barrel with industrial chemicals, likely in an attempt to hasten decomposition and avoid detection. The chilling part? The barrel had remained in the basement of the very house where the crime had occurred, hidden in plain sight. Detectives began piecing together Paul's final days, uncovering a web of deceit and betrayal. The homeowner at the time of the discovery, George Lane, was a former associate of Paul's and quickly became the prime suspect. Lane and Paul had been business partners, but their relationship soured over financial disputes. Investigators found evidence suggesting that Lane had lured Paul to the house under the guise of resolving their issues. Instead, Paul was met with violence, his life ended in a calculated act of murder. What made this case even more shocking was the audacity of the crime. Lane had continued living in the house for years, with the barrel sitting just beneath his feet. It wasn't until Lane sold the property and the new owners began renovations that the truth finally came to light. Lane was eventually arrested and charged with Paul's murder. In court, prosecutors presented a damning case, including forensic evidence from the barrel and testimony from witnesses who had seen Lane and Paul together on the day of the disappearance. Despite his claims of innocence, Lane was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. This case left an indelible mark on the community, serving as a stark reminder that even the most unassuming places can harbor dark secrets. The discovery of Paul McGuire's body not only brought closure to his family but also highlighted the importance of persistence in solving cold cases. Next case takes us to the Pacific Northwest, where one of the most notorious serial killers in American history left a trail of devastation. For nearly 2 decades, the Green River Killer eluded capture, but the discovery of his hidden burial sites told a story of unimaginable horror. The case began in the early 1980s, when bodies of young women began turning up along the Green River near Seattle, Washington. These victims, many of whom were vulnerable women or runaways, had been strangled and discarded in remote locations. The killer's ability to choose secluded spots and avoid detection frustrated investigators and terrified the community. As the body count rose, law enforcement launched one of the most extensive manhunts in history. Despite their efforts, the Green River Killer remained a ghost, leaving only the grim evidence of his crimes behind. It wasn't until advancements in forensic science and relentless detective work that the hidden burial sites began to yield crucial clues. In the mid-1980s, investigators utilized aerial surveillance, ground searches, and cadaver dogs to uncover additional burial sites. These methods led to the discovery of more victims, each site meticulously chosen to ensure the bodies would remain hidden. The killer's use of natural terrain to obscure his crimes showcased a chilling level of planning and control. The breakthrough came in 2001, when DNA evidence linked Gary Ridgway, a local truck painter, to several of the murders. Ridgway eventually confessed to killing at least 49 women, though he claimed the number was likely higher. He provided investigators with detailed accounts of how he chose his victims, committed the murders, and disposed of their bodies. His cooperation led to the recovery of additional remains, bringing closure to some families who had waited decades for answers. The emotional toll of this case was profound. For the families of the victims, the discovery of their loved ones' remains brought both relief and heartbreak. The investigators who worked tirelessly on the case were deeply affected by the scale of the violence and the suffering they encountered. Many described the sense of responsibility they felt to bring justice to the victims and their families. The Green River Killer's hidden burial sites stand as a haunting reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the shadows. This case not only tested the limits of forensic science but also highlighted the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable tragedy. While justice was ultimately served, the scars left by these crimes continue to be felt by all those who were touched by this harrowing chapter in true crime history. Next case takes us back to 1957, to a quiet, wooded area in Philadelphia, where a discovery would haunt the city for decades. The lifeless body of a young boy was found inside a discarded cardboard box, his identity and the circumstances of his death shrouded in mystery. This tragic case, often referred to as the boy in the box, remains one of the most unsettling unsolved cases in American history. The boy was estimated to be between 4 and 6 years old. He was malnourished, with evidence of severe physical abuse. His body had been carefully washed, and his hair crudely cut, as though someone had tried to conceal his identity. The cardboard box that held his remains had once contained a baby bassinet, sold by a local department store, but this clue led nowhere. The discovery sparked an intense investigation. Flyers bearing the boy's image were distributed across the region, and his likeness was even included in utility bills in an effort to reach as many people as possible. Despite these efforts, no one came forward to claim him, and no missing child reports matched his description. Over the years, theories about the boy's identity and the circumstances of his death have abounded. One theory suggested he was the victim of an illegal adoption gone wrong, while another pointed to a local foster home. Some speculated that his death was the result of severe neglect or abuse within a family desperate to keep their secrets hidden. In 2002, a woman known only as Martha came forward with a disturbing account, claiming that the boy was purchased by her abusive mother and subjected to unimaginable cruelty before his death. However, investigators were unable to substantiate her story due to a lack of evidence. The case's impact on forensic investigations has been significant. Over the decades, advances in technology, including DNA analysis, have been applied to the case, but even these have yet to provide a definitive answer. In recent years, genetic genealogy has been used to trace the boy's potential relatives, offering a glimmer of hope that his identity may one day be uncovered. The boy in the box remains a haunting symbol of unanswered questions and unspoken truths. His grave, marked with a simple headstone reading America's Unknown Child, has become a place of reflection and remembrance. This case continues to captivate investigators and true crime enthusiasts alike, serving as a stark reminder of the importance of justice and the enduring mystery of a life cut tragically short. If you're finding these cases as gripping as we are, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. We've got plenty more shocking stories coming your way. Our next case takes us to Wisconsin in 2019, where a 13-year-old girl made an extraordinary escape that would unravel one of the most harrowing abductions in recent memory. Jamie Kloss had been missing for 88 days, but in a miraculous turn of events, she managed to escape from the home where she had been held captive, leading investigators to uncover the shocking details of her abduction and the brutal murder of her parents. Jamie's disappearance had stunned the small town of Barron, Wisconsin. On October 15, 2018, her parents, James and Denise Kloss, were found dead in their home, shot at point-blank range. Jamie was nowhere to be found, and investigators quickly launched an intensive search. The case gripped the nation, with thousands of volunteers joining the search efforts and the FBI offering a substantial reward for information. For months, there were no leads, and the community lived in fear. Little did anyone know, Jamie was being held captive in a remote cabin by Jake Patterson, a 21-year-old man who had targeted her specifically. Patterson had been planning the abduction for months, and he had killed Jamie's parents in order to take her. He kept her locked in a small, windowless room, only allowing her to leave for brief periods when he would take her out on walks, always under his watchful eye. On January 10, 2019, Jamie saw an opportunity. Patterson had left the house to run errands, and Jamie knew it was her chance to escape. She fled the cabin, running through the snow and seeking help from a nearby woman, who immediately called 911. Jamie's escape led investigators to Patterson's home, where they found him and arrested him without incident. Patterson later confessed to the murders of Jamie's parents and her abduction. He explained that he had been planning the crime for months, driven by an obsession with Jamie. The emotional impact of this case was profound. Jamie's resilience in the face of unimaginable trauma was nothing short of extraordinary. She had survived 88 days in captivity, enduring physical and emotional abuse, yet she found the strength to escape and bring an end to her torment. Jaimes' bravery and determination were a testament to the human spirit, and her case became a symbol of hope for victims of abduction. In court, Patterson was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While nothing can undo the horrors Jaimes endured, her escape and the resolution of the case brought a sense of justice and closure to her family and the community. The discovery of Jaimes Escape was not just a case of survival, it was a reminder that, even in the darkest of circumstances, there is always hope for a way out. Case 5 takes us to Cleveland, Ohio, where in 2013, the discovery of 3 women held captive for over a decade shocked the nation. Michelle Knight, Gina De Jesus, and Amanda Berry were abducted at different times and kept in the home of Ariel Castro, a former school bus driver, in a case that would come to symbolize the unthinkable lengths of a predator's control. The women's abductions began in the early 2000s. Michelle Knight was the first to be taken, in 2002, at the age of 21. Gina De Jesus was abducted the following year, and Amanda Berry, who was 16 at the time, was taken in 2003. Each woman was held captive in a small, dark room in Castro's house, chained and subjected to unimaginable abuse. Castro kept them isolated from the outside world, allowing them only limited interaction with him. The discovery came on May 6, 2013, when Amanda Berry, after managing to break free from her captivity, managed to escape the house. She ran to a nearby neighbor's house, screaming for help. The neighbor, Charles Ramsey, responded immediately, and together they called 911. Berry was able to tell authorities that there were 2 other women still inside the house, and the police quickly arrived at the scene. Inside, officers found Michelle Knight, Gina De Jesus, and Amanda Berry, all of whom had been held captive for years. The conditions they endured were horrific. The women were kept in a small, windowless room, with only minimal access to food, water, and sanitation. They were often subjected to physical and emotional abuse, and Castro had even fathered a child with Berry during her captivity. The aftermath of the discovery was a whirlwind of emotions. The women were immediately taken to the hospital for medical care and psychological support. Their families, who had spent years searching for them, were overjoyed to finally be reunited with their loved ones, though they knew the road to healing would be long. Ariel Castro was arrested and charged with multiple counts of kidnapping, rape, and other crimes. During his trial, he pleaded guilty to 937 charges, including kidnapping and rape. He was sentenced to life in prison, plus 1,000 years without the possibility of parole. The case sent shockwaves through the nation, raising awareness about the horrors of captivity and the resilience of those who endure it. The women's strength and courage in surviving their ordeal were nothing short of extraordinary. Michelle Knight, Gina De Jesus, and Amanda Berry's ability to rebuild their lives and share their stories became a symbol of hope for other victims of abduction. The secret room in Ariel Castro's house remains a haunting reminder of the depths of human cruelty, but it also stands as a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the unbreakable will to survive. Case 6 brings us to one of the most horrifying serial killer discoveries in American history. In 1978, investigators searching the home of John Wayne Gacy, a respected local businessman and community figure, uncovered a secret so chilling it would forever change the way the public viewed him. What they found beneath his house, in the crawl space, would reveal the unimaginable scale of his crimes. Gacy, known for his charming persona and his work as a local contractor, had been living a double life for years. He was also a predator, luring young men and boys to his home with promises of work, money, or even simply a place to stay. Once inside, Gacy would torture, sexually assault, and murder his victims, before disposing of their bodies in the crawl space beneath his house. The discovery began with the disappearance of 15-year-old Robert Piest, who had vanished after leaving work one evening. His mother had reported him missing, and during the investigation, Gacy's name came up. He had been the last person to see Robert, and as detectives dug deeper into Gacy's life, they found a disturbing pattern. Gacy had been linked to several other missing persons cases, many of whom were young men from troubled backgrounds. After a search warrant was issued, investigators entered Gacy's home. What they found was beyond comprehension. Beneath the house, in the crawl space, they discovered the bodies of 29 young men and boys. Some had been buried, while others were discarded in a more haphazard manner. The sheer scale of the discovery shocked the investigators, as they realized they had uncovered one of the most prolific serial killers in history. Gacy's method of disposing of his victims was chilling. He would often strangle them with a rope, a method he referred to as the rope trick. Afterward, he would bury them under his house or dump their bodies in nearby rivers. The bodies were often in advanced stages of decomposition by the time they were discovered, making identification difficult. The impact on the community was profound. Gacy had been an upstanding member of society, even performing at local events as Pogo the Clown. His horrific crimes shattered the illusion of safety and trust in the community. The discovery of the bodies in the crawlspace was a wake-up call to the residents of Norwood Park, Illinois, who had unknowingly lived near one of the most terrifying killers in history. John Wayne Gacy was arrested and charged with 33 counts of murder. During his trial, he pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity, but the jury convicted him on all counts. He was sentenced to death, and in 1994, Gacy was executed by lethal injection. The discovery of the skeletons in Gacy's crawlspace remains one of the most chilling and impactful moments in true crime history. It serves as a stark reminder of the evil that can hide behind a mask of normalcy, and the horror that can lie beneath the surface of a seemingly ordinary life. Gacy's case not only shocked the world but also left an indelible mark on the community in the field of criminal investigation. Next case takes us to the state of Florida, where a shocking discovery at the Doer School for Boys exposed a history of abuse that had been hidden for decades. The unmarked graves found on the school's grounds would reveal a dark chapter in American history, one that many had hoped to forget, but the truth would not stay buried. The Doer School for Boys, located in Marianna, Florida, was originally established in 1900 as a reform school for troubled boys. Over the years, it became infamous for its brutal treatment of the children under its care. Reports of physical and sexual abuse were rampant, but it wasn't until 2012 that a full investigation into the school's past began, following the discovery of unmarked graves on the property. The investigation was prompted by the efforts of former students, many of whom had endured horrific abuse at the hands of the school's staff. They had long suspected that some of their peers had died while at Doer, but the details of these deaths were shrouded in secrecy. The graves were discovered by a team from the University of South Florida, which was conducting an investigation into the school's history. Using ground-penetrating radar, they identified 55 unmarked graves on the school's grounds, some of which contained the remains of boys who had been sent to Doer decades earlier. What the investigators found was shocking. Many of the bodies showed signs of physical trauma, including broken bones and injuries consistent with abuse. Some of the boys had been buried in shallow graves, their identities erased by time and neglect. The exact number of victims remains uncertain, but it is believed that as many as 100 boys may have died while at Doer, with many of their deaths unreported and unexplained. The school's dark history came to light as more former students came forward to share their stories. They described being subjected to harsh physical punishment, forced labor, and sexual abuse by staff members. The boys who were sent to Doer were often from poor or marginalized backgrounds, and the school was notorious for its use of corporal punishment. The brutal treatment continued for decades, with little to no oversight or accountability. The discovery of the unmarked graves at Doer sparked outrage and calls for justice. The state of Florida officially closed the school in 2011, but the damage had already been done. The survivors of Doer, many of whom had carried the scars of their experiences for years, finally had their voices heard. The state launched an investigation into the abuse at the school, but for many, the discovery of the graves was a painful reminder of the suffering they had endured. The case of the unmarked graves at Doer School for Boys is a haunting reminder of the abuse that took place behind closed doors and the lives lost in the pursuit of reform. It serves as a stark warning about the dark secrets that can be hidden in the places meant to protect the vulnerable. While some justice has been served, the full extent of the abuse remains a chilling chapter in the history of American institutions. Finally, though not in the United States, the discovery of a hidden bunker in Austria, where Joseph Fritzl held his daughter captive for 24 years, shocked the world and brought to light horrific issues of abuse, control, and manipulation that can happen in the most unsuspecting places. The case, which came to public attention in 2008, exposed a level of cruelty that seemed unimaginable, leaving the world to grapple with the dark realities of human depravity. Joseph Fritzl, a seemingly ordinary man from Amstetten, Austria, led a double life that would be revealed in the most horrifying way. Over the course of more than 2 decades, Fritzl imprisoned his daughter, Elizabeth, in a hidden basement bunker beneath his home. He had lured her into the basement when she was just 18 years old, locking her away and subjecting her to years of repeated sexual abuse. During her captivity, Elizabeth gave birth to 7 children, all fathered by Fritzl. 3 of these children were kept in the bunker with her, while the others were raised by Fritzl and his wife, who was unaware of the horrors taking place in their own home. The conditions in the bunker were appalling. Elizabeth and her children were kept in a small, windowless room with little access to food, water, or sunlight. They lived in isolation, and their lives were controlled entirely by Fritzl, who would visit the bunker to continue his abuse. The discovery of the bunker came about in April 2008 when one of Elizabeth's children, who had been brought to the outside world for medical attention, managed to alert authorities. The child, who had been suffering from a medical condition, was taken to the hospital, where doctors became suspicious of the child's story. The police were contacted, and they began investigating the case. When they arrived at the Fritzl home, they found the hidden basement and the horrifying truth about Elizabeth's captivity. She was freed, and the children who had been living with her were also rescued. The world was stunned by the discovery of the bunker, and the case quickly gained international attention. Joseph Fritzl was arrested and charged with multiple crimes, including incest, imprisonment, and rape. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison, where he remains to this day. The case highlighted not only the severity of Fritzl's crimes but also the extent to which he had been able to maintain control over his victims for so long. Though this case occurred in Austria, it bears disturbing parallels to similar cases in the United States, where individuals have been held captive for years in hidden locations. The story of Elizabeth Fritzl and her children echoes the cases of women like Michelle Knight, Gina de Jesus, and Amanda Berry, who were held captive by Ariel Castro in Cleveland, Ohio, for over a decade. In both cases, the victims were subjected to unimaginable abuse, and the world was left to ask how such horrors could remain hidden for so long. The case of Joseph Fritzl serves as a chilling reminder of the lengths to which some individuals will go to control and abuse others. It also sheds light on the global nature of such crimes, and the importance of vigilance in preventing similar tragedies from occurring. The discovery of the bunker was a moment of relief for Elizabeth and her children, but it also left the world grappling with the dark reality that such horrors can happen anywhere. Let's quickly recap the 8 shocking discoveries that have left us reeling. From the body found in a barrel in Nevada, to the hidden burial sites of the Green River Killer, the Boy in the Box, and the miraculous escape of Jaimes Escape, each case has revealed horrifying secrets and dark truths. We've also uncovered the tragic stories of women held captive for years, the disturbing discovery of unmarked graves at Doer School for boys, and the chilling bunker where Joseph Fritzl held his daughter captive. These cases not only expose the darkness of human behavior but also highlight the strength and resilience of those who survive and fight for justice. If you've enjoyed this journey through some of the most shocking discoveries in true crime, give this video a thumbs up, share it with fellow true crime enthusiasts, and subscribe for more stories that uncover the hidden truths of our world.